to the incident in Eastleigh that continues to elicit mixed reactions. The video clip of a police officer executing a suspect in broad daylight. It has caused much uproar from activists and as much support from the police. Inspector General of Police Joseph Boynet ordered for an investigation, saying he was appalled by this video. All right, so of course the video is very graphic and we will not show it here on the show right now. But let me bring in George Morara, who's the Vice Chair at the Kenya National Commission, Human Rights Commission. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So I'd like to hear your reaction to the first time that you saw this video. It has gone viral. When you saw it, what went through your mind?
Well, I thought that we are actually witnessing what should be happening in a lawless society.
Right.
We are witnessing what should be happening in what Thomas Hobbes called a state of nature, where life is nasty, life is brutal, and life is short. So in a nutshell, I really felt, to use the words of the Inspector General, appalled by this video because we are a country that's supposed to be governed by the Constitution, governed by the laws of this land, and what was happening in that video clearly doesn't live to those frameworks that we've set, the constitutional and other statutory frameworks that we've set to govern us. All
right, so what is the position on this issue from KNCHR?
Betty, let me let the viewers know one thing, that as a country for over 20 years, we struggled to give ourselves a constitution that we can actually call the supreme law of the land. And that constitution, if you look at certain aspects of that constitution, Article 244 speaks to the objects and functions of the National Police Service. That article has not been suspended. If you look at Article 238 of that constitution, it speaks to the principles of national security. That has not been suspended as far as I know. If you look at the National Police Service Act, although it has been significantly watered down to give the executive more power, it is still in place. And the sixth schedule of that act clearly sets out the terms under which police officers can use firearms. That has not been suspended. Finally, if you look at the fourth schedule that actually provides for the oath of office for police officers, every police officer swears to uphold and protect the Constitution. So for me, I think, I've seen the reactions of Kenyans out there. They think the police are doing the right thing. But as far as I'm concerned, we have not suspended our Constitution. Our Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It is not a list of suggestions, and that is what should be guiding our interaction and intervention with the way we deal with criminals in society.
All right. Now, like you mentioned, the IG has come out to say that he was appalled by the incident and investigations have been launched in this. But Charles Owino, the spokesperson, said that indeed it had been confirmed that these were robbers. And whatever happened, he did not castigate it, he did not defend. He was very wishy-washy about his response. But at the end of the day, he says that if these are people who hurt the public, then the police have the right to use all force to ensure that they do not do that again to other people.
I think, Betty, let me go with the top command of the National Police Service Commission. So I really want to side with the comments that have been made by the Inspector General of Police, that he's launched an investigation into this, and that is how it should be. The moment this video came out, actually, we also had comments attributed to the Nairobi County Commander, Japheth Koome, who actually said that this was in retaliation to his officers who had been killed.
Yes.
I want to say to the viewers of this country, our police officers, the men and women who wear uniform, when they go out there to put their life on the line to defend us, to make sure that we live in peace, that we go about our business peacefully. When they go out there and do this and then they come on harm's way and they're injured or killed, every right-thinking Kenyan should actually come out strongly to condemn that. In the same breath, when the men and women in uniform who have been given that mandate to actually keep us safe go out there and actually shoot and kill people, alleged criminals or thieves in cold blood, those actions should also be condemned in the strongest terms possible. So I want to strongly disagree with the sentiments associated with the police spokesperson Owino, as well as Japheth Koome. And let me also quickly say, in this country, we have a lot of people actually who in one way or another especially in top positions,
Right.
the so-called white-collar criminals who have been accused of stealing billions of money. We don't send the police to hunt them down, grab them, and shoot them. Most of these, because they're men and women of means, resort to the court processes to actually argue their case. And that is how it should be. But what we are seeing increasingly in this country is a trend whereby mostly young adults are being targeted for execution by the police. We have trends showing that from 2013 to date, 672 young people have lost their lives in methods that we clearly term as extrajudicial. Most of these young men are between 15 and 30 years old. And if as a country we've been reduced to only resorting to the bullet and the gun as a way of dispensing quote-unquote justice, then I think we are really treading down a dangerous precipice that we should be pulling ourselves out of.
Judge, let me be the devil's advocate. And, you know, there was mixed reactions about this incident.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you followed it online. And surprisingly, very many Kenyans were actually in support of what the police had to do, saying that, you know, it's only until you're in this, you know, thugs' hands that you will know how bad the situation is. And especially residents of Eastleigh coming out and saying that, you know, life is hard down there. What is your take on the reaction that Kenyans had, that indeed most of them coming out to support the police?
Betty, it's completely unfortunate that actually most Kenyans can come out to really strong the illegal, to support, come out strongly to support the illegal actions of the police. When I watched that clip, what I saw reminded me of the age of the gladiators and all these, like in a Colosseum, and the crowds cheering and the police actually shooting these people, and the Kenyans saying that this is the right way, it should be done. What Kenyans should be asking, that's the wrong way. They shouldn't be asking, or put yourself in my shoe if you've been robbed. The same Kenyans, when we are told that billions of money has been stolen, especially from, as was the case in the National Youth Service, as was the case, for example, recently allegations made in the Ministry of Health, I did not see those Kenyans baying for the blood of those white-collar criminals and all this. I think it is dangerous for this country to criminalize young men, most of whom are really out of meaningful ways of earning a livelihood. We should find alternative methods. The question should not be, put yourself in a situation whereby these young men target you. Even if they targeted you, we have the judiciary functioning, we have the same police officers who should arrest them and take them to court. What we take great exception with is a situation whereby Kenyans normalize those situations. They normalize the police illegalities and pass them on as normal.
Could it be that Kenyans maybe do not have faith that the judicial system is actually going to work and these people will be behind bars for the crimes they commit?
If Kenyans don't have faith in the judicial system, then I have every reason to really worry that then we don't have a country to speak about. But let me bring to the attention of the viewers two recent reports that were actually produced, one by the ICJ that focused on criminalizing poverty, and one that was produced some few months back by the Legal Resources Foundation that also looked at an audit of Kenya's criminal justice system. What is emerging is that increasingly, even the people who are being held in our jails and police remands and all this happen to be these so-called young petty criminals and petty offenders, petty thieves, somebody who just grabbed your phone and all this. What we should be doing as a country is to come up with plans that will ensure that we minimize the push factors that create all this groundswell for young men to engage in acts of criminality. If you can see them posing after they have robbed and all this, it means that these are young men who saw themselves as quote-unquote useless and hopeless yesterday. Today, they are flaunting it. And we're actually confronted by this very sad reality in this country, where past research has shown that young men, because of the way we do our politics, also think it is okay to rob, to steal, to be corrupt, to make money. So we need to speak to the bigger institutional architecture of this country, to the way we do government, and to create a space whereby there is inclusion for the young men. The bullet and the gun cannot be the only solution of addressing issues of criminal nature in this country.
So let's talk about, I want us to go back to that video, and what would give the officers guts to do this in broad daylight? I mean, obviously they knew that it was going to, someone somewhere was going to record it. I mean, what kind of impetus did they have to do this in front of this, mob of Kenyans who are watching? from your position?
From my position, I think we still have a mindset in the police service. I refuse to want to make them still believe that they are force, whereby impunity still reigns supreme. The police think they can actually do anything and get away with it. And maybe this is borne out with the present reality, because currently, as I speak, we have 46 cases that have been presented to the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, where police have been accused of misusing their policing powers, in some cases really where police have used their firearms and resulting to death. But out of those 46 cases, Betty, only 5 have actually resulted in successful convictions, including the case we saw of Kwekwe and another case that recently happened in Kerugoya. So for me, I would think is that culture of impunity, so much so that we are in a zero-sum game, where the police are accusing the judiciary of not convicting these criminals fast enough. The police officers who commit criminal acts know that they are not going to be subjected to the full force of the law. So actually, it's a culture of impunity across the board, and that's the culture that we must confront.
And I mean, it's interesting that you brought up the issue to do with Kwekwe. Individual responsibility, and especially in this case, who's supposed to take the responsibility? Because you can already see there's sort of like confliction from the various levels of the police unit. Owino says it could be okay. The Boynet says no, it is appalling and investigations should be launched. But also there's a case of these people, these policemen holding individual responsibilities. Is that a priority? Is that something that is looked into?
That is a legal issue. And like I said, the 6th schedule of the National Police Service Act is very clear on who takes individual responsibility. And if you'll allow me, Betty, very quickly, that there's a section 11 of that schedule says, following the orders of a superior is no excuse for unlawful use of force.
Okay.
This thereby means that an officer shall be held personally responsible on the use of his firearm. The responsibility also rests on the superiors who gave the unlawful orders. So it's completely out of order for Owino to come here and say that the police can do that, because the law is very clear they can't do that. You cannot actually act unlawfully and expect to say you are acting in the name of the police service. So the police officers will be held individually accountable. I'm happy, like I said earlier, that Boynet is on this. The Independent Policing Oversight Authority is actually on this. And the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, we're also working very closely with them. But very quickly also, Betty, if you saw what was happening in that clip, we know when police officers are going in to confront and disarm dangerous criminals, they don't go around wearing T-shirts and jeans and just doing it so in a callous manner and casually, shooting somebody completely subdued and then borrowing a gun from their friend and all this. If you look at the Reke squad, for example, and the other SWAT squad and all this, they go in fully armed, they go in prepared, they know they are going to face hardcore criminals. That shows that the Constitution allows for the use of lethal force under certain instances, but where they're just casually walking there, wearing their T-shirts, really nothing, no bulletproof, casually grabbing those guys and shooting them, it speaks to a service that is increasingly becoming rogue, especially if these cases continue to be reported. And it is high time as a country we actually held all these police officers individually responsible for any action that they commit that is outside the stipulated laws of the land, that is outside the Constitution. And Kenyans shouldn't really think that what's happening is the right way of doing things.
All right. Thank you very much for your time and for your insights, Judge Murara. He is the Vice Chair of the Kenya National Human Rights Commission. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So now we want to focus on our top story, and remember it has everything to do with some politics. And the ODM Party National Elections Board is today issuing nomination certificates to aspirants who are unopposed for the August general elections. And party leader Raila Odinga is yet to arrive at the Bomas of Kenya. Chris Thairu gave us the latest details of just who these people are, and Agnes Zani, who's the party